Hello everyone and welcome to Sew Kodiak Life. Today I am going to teach you how to make this wonderful water bottle holder that has a drawstring on the top and a really nice large pleated pocket. You can change the size of this pattern to fit whatever type of water bottle size you have. This is one I've made. It's a little bit wider because it's for a larger water bottle, and I wanted it to be a little bit roomier in here. And this pleated pocket easily holds a cell phone or and there's still room in there for anything else you might want to carry with you. So an absolutely gorgeous water bottle bag. And I've seen a lot of people request, like, we want water bottle bags. We want water bottle bags. So here you go. And this is a very easy pattern to sew. I will put the pieces that you need to cut out in the description. And I will also give you a downloadable copy of this size of the pieces that you're going to need. And you can jot those down right now. Pause your video if you want to. So I've already completed a couple of steps. I'm not going to go over how to cut the fabric pieces out. On your main fabric, which is 8 inches wide by 12 inches tall, you're going to want to make sure that you put on an interfacing. So I'm using Pelon PS 101, which I use for pretty much everything. It's just a really wonderful interfacing. You're going to need to cut 2 of the pieces out for your pocket flap. One from a lining and one from your main, or they could be the same. And then you need 2 8x8 squares that are going to turn into your pleated pocket up front. And you need a piece that's 5 inches by 8 inches, and that's if you cut it on the fold. And this is going to be the top that holds our water bottle in. All right, so I've already done a little bit of sewing. So this is my lining piece. You're going to want to sew at a 1/2 inch seam allowance down one side. On the other side, you want to make sure that you are leaving a hole that you're going to pull your project through at the end. You're going to want to line up and box in your corners. So for these corners on this particular bag, I did them at 1.5 inches wide by 1 inch tall. Okay, playing with my fabric here. So you want to line that up with the center mark. And then you would sew to box in your corners. All right, so and also on your next piece that I'm going to talk about a little bit is this is the cover top. So you need to fold over your edge a 1/2 inch and iron it down. Then you're going to make another fold another fold, make sure I'm doing it in the right order, that is another 1/2 inch, and this is going to turn into your casing for your drawstring there. So you can see when that is sewn, you're going to have a nice hole in there. So what you need to do is line up your fabric. So I know that this is going to come down when I fold it over. So I make a mark right here. So I'm only going to stitch at a 1/2 inch seam allowance up to this mark and back stitch. So I'll finish this piece later because I don't want to get into too much detail. So on my pocket flap, I've already sewn all the way around. And because this is just a flap, I went ahead and just did it at a 1/4 of an inch. And here's my pocket. So I'm just going to trim these corners. Then I'm going to turn it right side out. Get my little chopstick here so I can poke those corners all the way out. So remember, with any project, if you've watched any of my other videos, I'm always talking about making sure that you're doing a lot of pressing. So my husband and I, we've been really busy working on the greenhouse, and we've been growing a lot of microgreens. I'm gonna have to do a microgreen video. All right, so just poke all those corners out. And this little hole that we turned our project with, you're not even gonna need to worry about closing that, because it'll get closed when you sew the pocket on. So you're going to want to find the center. Okay, so I have a center line, which should be where you have 4 inches on each side, just about 4 inches, minus your seam allowance. You're going to want to mark 1.5 inches over from your center line on both sides. So let me grab my ruler. Okay. So there's the center right here. And I'm going to want to measure over 1.5 inches. I'm going to draw a line. Now this is a little bit hard to see probably on this particular color of fabric. So back to my center line, come over 1.5 inches. Because what we're doing right now is we're making our pleats. Right, so center line, 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches over. Then you're going to want to fold upwards like an accordion fold, and you're going to bring that to the center line. And you're going to want to Take the other one. And bring it to the center line. So I'm going to show you what this looks like, and then I'll go over and make sure everything is ironed. So this ends up being your little pleated pocket here that you're going to sew on. All right, since I'm going to take a break here in just a moment and go over to the iron, I'm going to turn right side out my little flap for this pocket. So I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to go do some ironing. Okay, so I am back from doing some pressing, and so remember we made our marks. Then we pinch up, so it's 1.5 inches off the center line. We pinch up and we push in. So I'm going to kind of let you take a good look at that, and it folds in. So you can see on the back side, you're going to have this pleat. And then I gave my little pocket here a good press. So on your main fabric for the water bottle, you're going to want to fold it in half and find your center line. So many little things laying out now. Okay, so I'm doing some pressing here. You can see. That's just going to show me the center of my bag. Okay, and I know it's, so here's my center line. I take my pocket. Now remember, we left that where we turned it right side out. I want to make sure that that's on the bottom of the pocket. So when I sew it, I'm going to end up sewing it shut. So I center my pocket on that center fold line. And I measure up about 1 inch from the bottom. So this measurement right here is 1 inch up. Find my ruler. Here's a tool. So you can kind of see. So there's 1 inch. Make sure this is all straight. One inch up here. So my pocket is perfectly centered now. So then you take a few pins. You're going to pin on your pocket. And so at the sewing machine, I'm going to come really close to the edge here. And so all the way around. I usually do some good back stitching here where the pocket opens, because there'll be a lot of pressure. This is your little flap. You can find the center point if you want. I don't think it's really needed. And it gets sewn right at the very top here. So I'm going to come along here and I'm just going to sew the stitch along here. And then this will fold over to make that flap. So this is where I said if you have fabric that is directional fabric, remember that it would be upside down here. So you have to think about your orientation. if you're using directional fabric. So I'm going to go sew these few pieces in just a moment. And I want to talk a little bit about... Oh, I'll wait. And in just a moment, I'll talk about the casing for the water bottle bag. Okay, so I'm back. So like I told you, so really close to the edge. Usually on the bottom, I might even go back and re-sew so I have a double stitch on the bottom. Of course, back stitching and sew on your flap. And so you can see that now this step we have sewn on our pleated pocket. So you're going to want to decide what kind of snap or clip you want to keep your pocket shut, because this is the time that you're going to install that. So usually what I do on mine is I already know where the center is, so I just measure up maybe about 1 inch right there. And this is where I'm going to use my cam snap. And last time I put on a magnetic snap, I really like that. But you could put on really any kind of snap you want. So just make a little hole. And then I can take my marking tool, put it in there, and then it's going to mark where I need to put my next one. Just make sure there. Got a good mark. Yep, I like that. And then I put a little bit of fray check. And I am ready to install my snap. So like I said, if you just have a little tiny snap or a button, I mean, you could put pretty much anything you want as a closure. So I'm just going to show you the way that I install my can snap. So I have a really big press here, and I use these fishing tackle boxes to organize my snaps, and then I put the die right in the box. So I'm going to need a male and a female. These are really small magnetic snaps. And I'm going to need 2 of the backs. Get that out of my way. Okay, so I don't know if you've used one of these presses before, but you put 1 die up top. And then I have to look at my magnetic snaps here, and you're going to see there's one that's a male, one that's a female. So I need to look for the correct die. So I'm going to put the male up top. So just always check your orientation when you're putting your snaps on. Okay, there's my top snap, and then my bottom snap. I have to think about the orientation here. It's going to need to go in this direction. my button on the back, change it out. The die. There we go. Hit set in there. Give it a press. And voila, there I go. I have a magnetic snap installed. But the yellow bag that I made, on this one, I just did a little plastic snap. So, you know, I like that you can choose whatever you want to do. I'm just going to move this out of the way. So it's time to put on my connectors. So for my connectors, I measure over 1 inch. And I'm going to bring my connector up 1.5 inches. Now, my connector straps for this bag are a little bit longer. They're 3 inches by 6 inches long, and that'll be on the pattern. And I'm going to want to sew my connector on there. Need some more clips. So if you see me moving around, my sewing area is very tiny. So a little bit cramped. You're going to want to tack that on. And then on the other side, you have to think about the orientation. This strap is going to need to go this direction. So make sure you have that right orientation here. So I'm going to flip my project around. It's again, measure over 1 inch, up 1.5 inches. And I do this part because I'm going to add a rivet later. And it's just really going to make it really secure. So you can see that the straps are going to be on opposite sides of the bag, the connectors. And then really you're just going to add 1/2 inch, sew up the side seams and box your corners here. Just like I talked about boxing the corners on my lining piece. Just make sure you leave that opening for turning. Center. Sew, and that's going to box in the corners. At the same time, I've done a little bit of work on that little cover flap for the water bottle. So I told you needed to measure down about 1/2 inch, iron, then you're going to fold again, and this is going to create your tube here for putting your string in. So I sewed my piece together in half, made my mark, because remember, I'm not going to sew all the way up. Do some back stitching. Then you're going to want to sew this both sides down. Then you will roll it. And sew all the way around. I'm just going to let you kind of take a really good look at that. And this is where I ended my sewing. Stop, back stitch, sew this down, turn it over, and sew your casing shut. Now, if you have a serger, really making a casing with a serger, in my opinion, is the way to go. So this is my little model of how to do it on a serger. So on a serger, you're going to want to just start by serging the ends. Then you will fold down like about a 1/2 inch. And you're going to press. And then you fold it back over. So you have this little accordion, looks like an accordion fold. And then with your serger, you're going to come along this edge here. And voila, you have a casing. So again, serge your sides. Fold down however wide, depending on, you know, I have a pretty thin string that I'm going to run through. So 3/4, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. Iron. Fold it back on itself. Run it through your serger. Okay. So you can kind of see that's the folding back. I ran it through the serger. And now I have this really nice looking area here that I can run my string through. So 2 different ways to make that top flap to hold in your water bottle. So I'll be back in a few minutes after I do a little bit of sewing. See ya. Okay, so I have my casings here are finished for the drawstring. So this is the one that was done with the sewing machine. And then here I have one that I did with the serger. I've sewed the sides of my bag up, and I boxed the bottoms corners in. So I'm ready for the final assembly, really. So at this point, you need to have your main bag, turn it right side out. So we need to sew on our casing here. So you want to find your 2 side seams and line them up. And the casing is going to go right inside there. Open that side seam. So hopefully you can kind of see how I've lined the 2 side seams up. Put a clip there. Open my other side seam up. So you're just going to want to go all the way around, pinning, and then at 1/4 of an inch, you're going to want to sew on this casing to hold in the water bottle. Now, this whole casing stuff is optional. I mean, you don't have to have that little casing to hold in your water bottle. All right, so I'm going to go sew this on, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back from sewing the little casing on for the drawstring part of the bag. I have a little pucker there, but I don't think anyone will notice. All right, and so you can see what it's going to look like here. So the last step is really just to put the two bags together. Organize this. So like always, right sides together. So right side, right side. I'm going to put on in my lining piece. Match up your side seams. And once again, you're just going to pin all the way around. This is just kind of a, don't want to take too much of your time of watching me pin the two pieces together. So you pin all the way around, or I should say clip. Okay, with the right sides together. And now I'm going to sew at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so at 1/2 inch seam allowance, I sewed all the way around my bag. And now I'm finding the little hole I made. I mean, we're pretty much almost done with this bag here. So just kind of birth the bag through there. Try not to be too rough with it. This is always, for me, the exciting part, when you see that everything has come together here. Let's poke that out. So at this stage, I usually go over and give everything a really good press. And you're going to want to also sew this up in your lining. Give everything a good press. And then we're pretty much done. I'm just going to add a little bit of rivets to it. Okay, the last step is to come around and do top stitching, which I do with a stitch length of 3. There's my dog is going a little bit barky on me. And then I like to put in a couple of rivets. So I put in a rivet here, and I put in a rivet here. Just make sure that when you're putting in the rivet, that your casing is out, so that you're not punching through this top part. So a rivet and a rivet here. Then you just need to put string through your drawstring, and your bag is finished. So I hope that you like sewing this water bottle bag with me today. If you did, I hope that you like and subscribe. Thank you.